what we have is a system set up to fail our students, where folks aren't being prepared for the next step. So, you know, maybe you didn't go to pre-K, so then when you get to kindergarten, little Johnny's getting in trouble because he's just moving around too much and he's too antsy because he hasn't learned how to, you know, behave in that classroom environment or what have you. And then each grade doesn't prepare him for the next, so that he's behind from the very beginning. You know, then he doesn't get into a good high school. Maybe he's in the neighborhood high school that, you know, there's all these fights going on, and there's this and there's that, and there's distraction, you know, from the actual learning. And so then he's never prepared for college.
Incidents like the woman getting hit in the face by the sergeant in Philadelphia, the police officer, you know, why that erupted into what it was, or which goes on to other things. But, you know, those incidents create havoc in the community, not just because a man hit a woman, but that went beyond that.
Puertorriqueños say, si Dios quiere, you know, they put it in the will of, you know, they just throw it out there in the will of something. Even though God, if it's in God's will, yes. But you also have to work for it, and you have to, you know, apply for this job. You can't just say, Lord, if it's God's will, I'm gonna get the job and not apply. So people, they procrastinate. They just, they put themselves down. They put their borders in front of themselves. Like, you know. But I don't know if I can do this because I don't know if I can read that well. And the Latinos, we go into stuff already thinking that we're already at a disadvantage.
Going back to the money, as the money gets smaller, right? There's only so much you can do, but there's still this great need. So I think that that's something that's always going to, and plus all these waves of new immigrants that come, that it's not just the Puerto Rican community anymore. It's the Dominican community, it's the Mexican community, it's, you know, those that come from South America. But we still have this common issue, which is we speak a language that we want to acknowledge and celebrate, but it becomes that disadvantage.
From my experience, I think I picked up, well, the most valuable lesson I think that I've learned has been to slow down, and I think a lot of it came from working in groups. I'm used to, you know, pretty much going with a project and making it my own, but when you have to work with other people and you really have to step back sometimes and look at whether you're really involving them, or if you're doing something that maybe you could do a little bit differently, and just make sure everyone's on board at the same time. So in my group in particular, it was like me catching myself a lot of times and slowing down. So I thought that that was something really good, especially since now I'm teaching. So it's something that I use even now. So for the people that are in the class right now, I mean, really just embrace the whole experience. I think that, you know, just learning about the culture in itself, and then not only the culture, but then the neighborhoods that we are working in, and the communities that we're supposed to be touching and helping. So I think that overall, like, the program does give you the tools needed to kind of help that community out. So it's my hope that they'll use that information and keep moving on with it and do something. Like, don't just let it stop after the program ends. Just keep building on it and do what they have to do. And for future people, really embrace the whole thing. It's definitely like what they said in the beginning. It's a journey. It's something that even in the beginning you're trying to figure out whether it's a good fit for you, if it's not a good fit for you, but at the end it all comes together and it makes sense.
I always emphasize to my students, in many ways, I like to teach history, right? Teaching where we are today, and then going back and saying how we got there, right? So you'll see a little bit of that today. But the reality is that a lot of our kids are taught history from a very boring perspective of dates and moments in history without talking about the context and the human beings that lived that moment in history, right? So timelines are important in the sense that you want to also know the sequence of how things happen, but at the same time, the date is not the most important thing, but what was being lived by humans, and how have we either overcome or continue to drag that history with us, whether it's positive or negative. So I see the younger members of the staff here, and they go like naming people like Amy and stuff, and alumni. And you know, it's almost like, I've always insisted on this, pero ya me estoy poniendo muy viejo. But, you know, Philly should have a cultural school. You know, not a cultural school, another charter school, God forbid, please. Not another charter school, not another public school, but a school that's controlled by the community that is about this. It's about intergenerational storytelling and passing on history, taking advantage of our seniors and their rich heritage and their rich experiences and putting them together. When I worked at Taller, we did a lot of that work, and it was always amazing. Like, the results were amazing. Like, you know, you couldn't help but cry, no matter what my father told me to do. You know? And, yeah.
María de Hosto is the,
Sí, no, hay charter schools que enseñan la cultura, and that's great. But I'm talking about, you know, I'm talking about ownership of everybody's ownership. That's a school where the teacher gets paid, and they might come in and be happy about getting paid to do our culture. But the fact is that, you know, it should be something that's very, almost he said, organic, right? That it comes out honestly. It's, you know, opportunities for, and the Latino Partnership is probably one of the few organizations in the city that literally has built on that, right? It's built all these leaders from these institutes that can now start to trickle down into young ages, and, you know, including the high school kids, and, you know, anyway. One last, any few last words? Yeah, so you and then Franklin.
what I learned today that I didn't know, it was that, and I heard, you know, back in the days, I heard that the Barrio Latino was around Spring Garden. And I live by Girard, you know, which is Northern Liberty. But I didn't know that the Barrio Latino was around there. So I can wait until I go home and do a little more research, and so I can talk to my...
I'm glad you brought that up, because this guy over here is keeping himself quiet. Is just finished this documentary called Cuentos. It's a documentary about the Puerto Ricans in the Spring Garden barrio of Philadelphia, and it really is a beautiful piece. Take out the parts where I speak, and it becomes even more beautiful. But yeah, you know, Gil has probably. This is probably the first documentary that really looks at Puerto Ricans from a perspective of experience, of story, right? Of lived story, because he interviews people that live it. And maybe, I don't know if you can bring him back.
Yeah, actually, I don't have any copies with me today, but I have copies to sell.
How much you selling for?
They told me I should sell it for $10. That's what they told me, so I don't want to.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
Yes, you do.
Value your work, right? Value your work. But Angel has a copy, and I don't know if you want to bring Gil back as you know, cut the hours for somebody else and show it. But anyway, not my hours. The last word, Franklin.
Oh no, I guess of what I've learned today and everything, I don't know, it's just kind of frustrating, I guess, in a sense, because it's like you get to see how much, you know, Hispanics have really lost their culture, in a sense, because of the like, first of all, that we don't teach it to each other, and then on the other hand, having such a powerful culture as in the United States impact us and change us in so many ways. Like, there's a lot of things, I'm not a big fan of like all the arts. Like, when it comes to music, I am, but when it comes to that, but just seeing it and hearing the story behind it kind of changes my perspective. But then even at the beginning of class, when we did the whole thing with the, what's the church called? La Milagrosa. La Milagrosa or whatever? Never heard of it. Oh. But yet again, it's encouraging to know that like now they're trying to sell it and everything, but it just, you haven't heard no Hispanics talking about that. Like, you don't hear that. All you hear is all the bad stuff about us in the newspapers and whatever, and it's like, we're teaching it to our children that we don't even have words what to say to them, and like, oh, where's our culture from or whatever, because it wasn't taught to us. So it's not a problem that started now. It's a problem that has grown, you know what I mean? So it's just, I don't know, it's kind of like frustrating, an eye-opener, but it's a frustrating one. One that I would rather just keep closed and like put to the back, you know what I mean? Yeah.
But then it gets worse.
Yeah, I know, exactly, then it gets worse. So it's like,
one more time, I think he deserves a lot more than just like I've seen him my whole life since him going to St. Peter's and everything, so I always love it when you talk and do your thing. So thank you again. So finish up your evaluations real quick. Well, take your time, but take the next 5 minutes to go to the bathroom, get some water, because then we're going to just continue on. So stretch, stand, pee, water in 5 minutes. Do what you gotta do. Stretch.
The next one is 8. New generation.
Pepsi's? No? Nobody for Pepsi?
8 is out.
8 is out.
11, without limits.
Without
Sin
limits.
límites.
Sin límites.
1, 2, 3. 3.
I'm bilingual.
I made that name because in order for us to evolucionar y crecer, we have to aliarnos, nos tenemos que unir.
Become an alliance.
So that's why I picked.
Okay. So now everyone knows why those names were picked, which this just came out of the blue. We were just going to say the name, but I think this is a little bit better. So now we have, this is the moment of truth. You only have one vote.
Give us a minute.
Y'all need a minute?
You need a minute to think about this. Number 1. Anybody for number 1?
He gave you a Puerto Rican minute.
Oh. We would have 5 then. We can start with 8. We would have 5.
Okay, so number 1 is out. 0.
No.
No, nobody said they wanted a minute to process.
Danny John.
Shut it down. What's your?
It was like, recheck it.
Yeah, a week.
All right, think about it, process it. Chew it.
We had it for 13 minutes.
Can you take it?
Con lo que está pegado.
All right, listen. Number 1, the Latino evolution. La evolución latina. Number 7, which is creciendo en la cultura. It was written, okay.
3C.
Yes, creciendo con cultura.
Growing in.
And then Alianza Latina, the Latino Alliance, the Latina Alliance.
And this is what you're going to call.
Okay, your minute is up. Let's go.
All right.
Other things to do.
We actually have
Ready? Number 1.
Who wants number 1? Raise your hand.
Come on, number 1.
Going.
What's number 7?
Number 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
No, but you
Your hand
can't
up?
do 2 hands. You can't do 2 hands.
Put your hands up, guys. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Is your hand up? I don't know. 5 and a half. 6, 7 and a half. What do you got?
7 and a half.
It's your
We're at 7 right now, depending on what you decide. Going.
Which yours?
Okay.
No pressure.
All right, number 15.
So everyone else?
Yeah, 15. So 15.
So whoever didn't vote just
How
now.
many people are in this class?
15.
Oh, so then.
So there's 7 votes to 15.
Yeah.
No, wait.
here.
No, there's 7.
But if they're not here,
Right.
we're not
Okay.
seven. So you have 6 votes.
So,
8 and 6.
Either way.
okay, now, I'm gonna throw you a curveball real quick. I'm gonna just throw this curveball out there real quick.
We only have a minute.
Gong, right? Just said something that maybe you guys, real quick. Compromise. Why, did you see something that?
Because I like the whole idea of the evolution, like.
Oh no, evolution is out.
Nobody voted for that.
Nobody voted for that.
I hope we get it together.
I don't know. It's
Like we are not Christian.
We have to.
Creciendo con cultura en una alianza latina.
Alianza de cultura.
Creciendo con cultura en una alianza latina.
Majority rules, and what's the name? Majority rules.
Hold on a second, guys.
Creciendo con cultura en una alianza latina.
Right, that's what I said.
That's pretty much. That means you took both of these and put them together.
That's
Say that again?
Creciendo con cultura en una alianza latina.
My compromise.
So now we have CCLA. CCCLA.
We could just still make the callback a con. Lo que está pegado. Don't make it the same callback.
All right.
Do they? You better
better
Well, if
get a
number
consensus.
7 wins
If
or
the class wants that, you better.
Well, right now,
just either merge the two.
that's what we're asking.
Creciendo
Are
con
you guys?
cultura en
You either have the number 7, or the suggestion was to merge both of them
But that's
together.
what we're telling the
Now,
other group.
is the class okay to
And that's-
merge all of them? First, that's the
And
question.
that's the vote. The vote is, do you want to merge?
How many
We
to
need a
merge?
unanimous vote.
How many to merge?
How
¿Cuánto
many?
quieren combinar los dos?
Yeah, we do need a unanimous vote for this.
3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 to merge.
So then, that's majority there.
So it'd
We're gonna merge.
We gotta convince the ones that don't.
That's right.
creciendo con cultura.
This is a decision.
This is a decision.
Class
En
decision.
una alianza.
I like the
Because here's the
You like the long
deal. Here's the
one?
deal. 1 won already.
So did you
That
vote for
won.
So
For
it's
the
either
merge?
the merger
Okay,
or
so it's either full merge with the whole group that you say you're gonna merge,
we're the highest.
or that 1 won.
Raise your hand again if you're voting for the merge. Para combinar los dos. Si está votando para combinar los dos. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Half for half like
Did you have your hand up or no? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
It doesn't, it has to be. Doesn't matter one, so yeah, it has to be. So that's 7 it is, triple C.
Alright, we're 3 minutes into Johnny's time.
Okay, what is the name of the class?
Creciendo con cultura.
Los confundidos.
That's it. Okay, congratulations. No. Okay. Okay.
Hong Kong.
Hong Kong. Hong Kong.